Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. That's the name of the show, name of the podcast. Welcome to it, Martin, Devlin, Lachlan Ward. Bit of a sleepy old weekend, sports-wise. Sports fans here in New Zealand. Couple of good issues to get our teeth into, though. Michael Maguire, no longer coach of the Kiwis. He had to choose, and he chose the Blues Origin side. Why couldn't he do both jobs? Well, on the podcast, NZRL CEO Greg Peters explains. We've got a fair bit of time to actually get another Kiwi coach in place. Is it NZRL's wish now that a New Zealander does coach the Kiwis, someone who is here, domiciled here, committed to living here in New Zealand? The Phoenix doubleheader on Saturday. Now, I went to Go Media Stadium, Mount Smart, and how disappointing that only about 6,000 people turned up. It was a brilliant promotion. And they did all they could to attract a crowd. Why is it that Eden Park sells out for Denmark versus Sweden or whoever it was in the Women's Football World Cup, and yet the Phoenix women's side comes to Auckland, hardly gets big-time promotion from those major media companies? 2 for the price of 1. It was a brilliant day. Weather was perfect. Why no crowd? And what does that mean for the new A-League franchise next year? Heck, if 2 Phoenix teams can only attract 6,000, well, what hope then that the Black Knights, or whatever they will be named, are going to get consistent crowds themselves? We'll talk EPL with Tom Rennie and Garnacho for Man United, scoring a contender for goal of the season. We begin this program every day, same way. I say tablets in hand, gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. What do we learn from the weekend? Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
What do we learn over the weekend? Not a hell of a lot of sport on, but one thing we did learn is that you can put on the best promotion, but it doesn't necessarily mean at all in Auckland that you're going to corral the crowds into going along and watching, getting off their butts, going live to sport. Great spectacle put on by the Phoenix. Great weather, great value for money. I thought that the Knicks ticked all the right boxes on Saturday at Mount Smart Go Media Stadium, but sadly the people just didn't show. Didn't show in the sort of numbers needed or wanted anyway. Good luck to the new A-League franchise side when that gets going. Good luck on luring big crowds, consistent crowds. Good luck on luring any crowds. We learned that the Premier League is a bona fide title race, all right. There's at least 3 teams contesting the title this year. Man City and Liverpool drew yesterday. Those 2 and Arsenal are all right in the mix, and all of the form, the credentials and the squads to make a right go of it. Maybe, just maybe, this season won't be just another Manchester City benefit. We learnt that New Zealand motorsport, again, is in such great hands at the moment. Matt Payne winning in Adelaide yesterday, the final race of the supercars season. And what a race from that young man too. Yeah, Shane van Gisbergen didn't finish the way that he wanted, but hey, as one goes, another one arrives. Here he is. Come on down, Matt Payne. And we learned that Michael Maguire is more loyal to Australia and Australian League and things happening there than here. The Kiwi coach giving up the reins of our national team to take over the Blues Origin side. Look, it's no surprise. It's happened time after time. And there's a huge, long list of them, isn't there? Mark Rudan and Nathan Brown, 2 of the more recent Aussie blokes who give it the big, I'm here for the long haul, I'm totally committed to the cause and the whole country. Give it all of that spiel, only to jump ship as soon as the first real decent offer to return home arrives. You can't blame Maguire. You can't blame him at all. It's no criticism. It's no surprise. It just is what it is and will mostly always be like this. I suppose it also just does reinforce how lucky the Warriors are with Andrew Webster and the commitment that he's made to that club. But, you know, again, you can't blame him. He's just chosen to coach Origin over International League. It says a lot to me about where the power and the glory of the game still lies. No bitterness, no criticism. It's just a better opportunity, almost impossible to turn down. And, as I said, no great surprise.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
Lachlan, sports news headlines then.
Yeah, a couple of stories, really interesting ones. I mean, the thing is, it's been a quiet weekend in sports, so not a huge amount of results. I mean, a few results to work through, but there's actually some stories, some nice meaty stories to work through, and both actually could be good. First off, cricket. Australia is set to play 2 men's tests at the Melbourne Cricket Ground in the same season, including a 150th anniversary match against England in March for the first time in more than 40 years, after New Zealand agreed to extend its 2026-27 tour to 4 tests. So, 4 sources with knowledge of plans, speaking on condition of anonymity, because negotiations are ongoing, that is, confirmed that Cricket Australia has reached terms for New Zealand to play 4 tests rather than the 3 tests set out in the Future Tours program. Now, it's a couple of years away, but it's brilliant. It means we're heading back to Australia because we never play tests against them.
Oh, we do so well, too.
Let alone
we play tests.
yeah.
Cricket over there, don't we?
So yeah, but that's something to look forward to in a couple of years' time. 5 Black Caps have been released by the Indian Premier League sides as franchises trim their squads ahead of next month's auction for the 2024 season. Those 5 Black Caps being Tim Southey, Lockie Ferguson, Cole Jameson, Finn Allen, Michael Bracewell have all been released. They'll be hoping to be picked up by new franchises at the 10-team auction, which is on December 19. Now, the other big story, I've seen a headline. So now, excuse me, I'm reading this off of an article. It's a story on the Herald. It seems to be an exclusive of sorts, though they haven't written exclusive next to it, so maybe it's not. New Zealand has taken a giant step towards igniting the biggest leadership upheaval in its rugby history, with provincial unions having told NZR they broadly agree with independent reviewers that its current governance structure is not fit for purpose and should be blown up. Now, how much power the provincial unions have in this situation really remains to be seen. I can totally see the NZR power makers, lawmakers, however you want to describe them, simply saying, oh, we're just going to make some adjustments and then move forward. Remember when that review came out? They said that it was not fit for purpose and they kind of have just let it sort of whittle away in the background?
Well, it was always going to go back to the provinces, I think, and then they have to decide to garrot themselves for Christmas. The turkey is going to kill itself and serve itself up, because I don't think that the new ownership can be the provincial unions having that, if that makes grammatical sense of English.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, so the new ownership model is simply that at the moment NZR is supposedly owned by the provinces. So it's like a cooperative, okay? It's not a trust, it's like a cooperative.
Yeah.
But for it to go forward under the recommendations of the review, that has to be completely and utterly dismantled. So the provinces will no longer have a 1 in 27 vote. However, at the same time, you would have thought that when it's not fit for purpose, that they're also criticising the current people who run the joint as well.
Yeah.
So whether they vote to garrot themselves as well is
Which I can't imagine.
Well, we know
happen.
it won't happen.
Yeah,
We know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, so that was the other sort of meaty story that it's moving around on a Monday, which is nice to see, because Monday, aside from results, is actually rather quiet. All right, rumblings in the NRL. I saw this on Facebook and I've seen a couple of articles circulating as well. And I think this is relatively big news because I think he's the next absolute massive superstar of the NRL. Reece Walsh is set to extend his contract with the Broncos. He's made an agreement of sorts. How far along negotiations are, I'm not too sure. But from what I've seen, that contract extension would be 3 years, 1.1 million a year. So 3.3 million in total, which would make him the highest paid Bronco of all time.
All time.
And think about the big players who've played for the Broncos over the years. Now, the NRL, the way it works with every sport is that money and what you're paid goes up and up and up as the decades pass. But still, that's a huge story if it comes to fruition for the Broncos, who have extended a couple of players over the last week or so, and also set to allow Kurt Capewell to sign with the Warriors. Have you seen that story, Marty? No. Kurt Capewell, Origin forward, played for the Broncos, premiership winner with the Panthers, played for Brisbane the last couple of years, set to come to the Warriors, it seems. So that's great news for the Warriors. Really good pickup, I think. All right, Matt Payne is in the Supercars winners' circle, taking out the final race of the 2023 season on the Adelaide Street Circuit. He hadn't had a podium, let alone a victory, prior to this win yesterday, and he's only 21 years of age, so this could be a star in waiting for New Zealand motorsport. Shane Van Gisbergen and his Supercars careers come to a pretty nasty end. He was forced to retire in both races over the weekend. Championship hopes dashed and then couldn't even finish yesterday's race. Brodie Kostecki from Erebus won his maiden title. He only just turned 26 years of age. And like Van Gisbergen, has experience in NASCAR. He drove in the feeder series prior to winning this championship in Supercars. Premier League, couple of really good games over the weekend. This morning, Man United beating Everton 3-0. Brilliant goal from Garnacho that Marty played audio of just before. Tottenham lose their third straight at home, losing to Villa 2-1. Yesterday, Arsenal went top with a 1-0 victory over Brentford, a late winner for them. Man City and Liverpool drawing 1-1. I think it's a great result for my Reds. Newcastle smacking Chelsea 4-1. And in terms of the table, Arsenal on top, 30 points. City on 29 in second. Liverpool on 28 in third. They're tied with Villa, though. Villa are on 28 as well. Spurs on 26. They're now outside the top 4. And who's there in 6? Lurking in the background.
Lurking.
Man United. 4 points off Aston Villa and Liverpool. 2 points off Spurs. Still 6 points off the top. Only 6 off the top of the table. And what's incredible, 8 wins, no draws, 5 losses, 0 goals difference.
0 goals difference, yeah. And
So
our biggest
16
win
scores,
away
16
from home
against.
in 2 years. So a hell of a result at an emotionally charged, as I said, Goodison Park.
Can I just say, by the way, you scored 3 goals, right? That's nearly a quarter of your goals scored in one game out of 13.
Right, I'm going to tell you what, I'm still stunned.
Terry Venables, charismatic and
El
tactically innovative English football coach who led his national team to the European Championship semi-finals in 1996. After winning trophies at club level with Barcelona and Tottenham, he has died at the age of 80. I don't know much about Terry Venables. What was he like?
Arthur Daly, son. He was Arthur Daly, mate.
So
Cream
good.
and jelly, back of the lorry, in the lockup.
So is Miles
there
Davis.
indoors. Yeah, exactly. If you ever watched the series Minder, okay, with Dennis Waterman, he was Arthur Daly, okay? Your Miles Davis, East End, like, it's all, down the rub for a Pigs.
I don't know what any of that means, but great. Okay. Back to some motorsport. Sort of a bit choppy with my ordering here, but Max Verstappen won his 19th Grand Prix of the season-ending Formula One race in Abu Dhabi. 19 wins in a season. Unheard of. Record extending, won an absurd number of points. Red Bull won 21 of the 22 races, with Sergio Perez winning 2, and as I say, Verstappen winning 19 of them. And finally, nice story. Over the weekend, this took place. This was more news yesterday, but something to mention. New Zealand skier Alex Robertson finishing second in the World Cup giant slalom race in Killington in the USA this morning. That was yesterday morning. Switzerland's Lara Gut-Barami made it 2 giant slalom victories from 2 starts this season by winning the event. But Robinson was only 0.62 seconds behind her. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.
Michael Maguire, no longer coach of the Kiwis. Yeah, I don't understand this. It seems that, well, on the surface, the guy should be able to do both jobs. It's been done before. Daniel Anderson was coach of both the Warriors and the Kiwis. Maguire himself was coaching the West Tigers and the Kiwis, but no, made to choose. And so the Blues, the big shiny Australian option, won out. Greg Peters, NZRL CEO, explains. Why couldn't Maguire do both jobs?
Well, at the end of the day, we asked him to make a choice between those 2 roles, and he chose New South Wales route. We want the Kiwis and international football to be the top of the pecking order, and for someone who has a kind of 100% focus on that role, not with half an eye on a team in Australia that many people put above the Kangaroos. So it's a position of where State of Origin sits in the pecking order of football, I guess, and in our view, we want the Kiwis and international football to be right at the top, not an also thought.
So does that effectively mean that he's chosen Origin over the Kiwis because he could only choose one?
That's been his decision, yeah. So he in some ways you have to respect that. I mean, he's a professional coach. Coaching is a complex environment where a guy of his calibre is always going to get offers. So he's made a choice that he thinks is the best for him going forward, which is very sad for us because we absolutely wanted him to stay with the Kiwis. There's no doubt about that. And we wanted him to take us through to 2026 World Cup.
So was there any possible way that he could have done both jobs?
He thought there was, but in our view, there's a number of complications. So people might just think that we play 3 test matches at the end of the year and that's it. So why, there's a short window. But the Kiwis coach role is as much about interacting with the player group throughout the year, being able to talk to young and up-and-coming players, and it's a 12-month gig. So it's something that you have to be 100% focused on, in our view, in terms of at that level, and not being distracted by perhaps, one instance, if I could use an example, you could be sitting in the Roosters changing head, talking to James Tedesco about State of Origin and Australian aspirations, and then you're turning around in the next breath talking to Joey Manu about the Kiwis. It just doesn't sort of fit comfortably. And there are other complications. For example, the only window that we can ever get access to our Kiwis players during club season in a group is the same time as the State of Origin camps are on in early February.
What about this letter from past players, or what's been described as a powerful bunch of Kiwi old boys? How much influence did that have?
I haven't received a letter, so I'm not sure where that's come from. We've spoken to a number of old boys through this process, but the bigger weight we put on was the current player group, the opinion of the current player group. And that is, we've engaged on several occasions with the leaders and more recently a wider group. And to a man, they have said he can't do both jobs. And that's pretty powerful in itself. And we have a group of players now who are leading that environment in a way that we haven't seen before. And we need to respect their views. And also, I think we've got the strength to go forward, sadly, without Michael. But he's set up, and the group itself has set up a really good platform for the future.
This is Greg Peters, NZRL CEO, with us. And we're talking about Madge Maguire, who now won't be coaching the Kiwis, and his track record was pretty good. I want to get back onto that in a second. So, were all the current players canvassed for their opinions?
The leader, not everyone, because that's not possible often. But we've spoken to the leadership group, and we've spoken to the captain a couple of times, and also slightly expanded group of players as well. Once the decision broke, and to a man, they've been supportive.
Was there any discussion at all between you and the ARL, who control Origin? Did you have talks at that level?
We only spoke to New South Wales prior to the Pacific Championships when the news first broke, and agreed collectively to respect the fact that Michael was busy with international football, and the focus should go on that until such time as the Pacific Championships were concluded.
Okay, I'm just on a site at the moment. Look, the Herald Sun reporting it, the Daily Telegraph reporting it, the Australian reporting it, and I'll read you a couple of sentences. In a dramatic about-face, the New Zealand Rugby League has delivered a stunning us or them ultimatum to Michael Maguire. Was it an ultimatum then?
Well, firstly, it wasn't a stunning about-face because people were making assumptions that a decision had been made or conversation had been had at that level, and that was prior to Michael meeting with the board. No, there was no ultimatum as such. We said to Michael, well, here's our view, and here's our collective view of the board, the management team that worked closely with Michael, the current player group, and some former players. Here's the collective view. We think you need to consider that in your decision, and he did, and made a decision to go in a different route.
A couple of other headlines then. Michael Maguire has quit as head coach of the Kiwis after the New Zealand Rugby League board bowed to pressure from a powerful collection of past players. The New Zealand Rugby League are under increasing pressure by a section of powerful Kiwi old boys. So who are these players? Who is this lobby group, these old dudes?
Well, not true, first of all. So bowing to pressure is certainly not true. Factoring in people's opinions is true. But there has been one particular vocal person who might claim to have more sway than others, but that's the truth of the matter is that we spoke to several former players as part of this process. But in terms of a letter being delivered or a powerful lobby or the old boys calling the shots, no.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Moan. I'm moaning all the time. Oh, it's Monday. I got a moan on, all right. You know I got a moan on. To quote a once infamous Aussie tourist campaign starring Lara Bingle, Michael Clark's old flame, where the bloody hell are you? What happened to the crowd at the Phoenix on Saturday, Auckland? Slack as. Disappointing, the turnout at the doubleheader Go Media Mount Smart Stadium. Brilliant idea, great promotion, big occasion, but barely 6,000 in attendance. Why's that? 2 matches back-to-back on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, 2 for the price of 1. I don't know what more the Phoenix can do to bring quality football, both men's and women's, to our city, and yet no one turns up. I don't get it. Eden Park gets packed out for Denmark versus Sweden or whatever, all because it's a World Cup match. I get that that's a big event and a lot more glamorous and a lot more interest, but on the back of that, would you not expect a fair chunk of those same fans might be attracted back to sample the local product? No. Getting Aucklanders to go to live sport right now is a real issue. You just ask the Blues. They can't buy a crowd. It is such a shame. Both the boys and the girls teams won on Saturday. 2 good matches to get your teeth into. Excellent value for money. As I said, the weather was good. Everything in place for a bumper crowd to enjoy. But Auckland sports fans go, yeah, nah, whatever. How disappointing. The teams, the occasion, the Phoenix deserved a hell of a lot better.
Devlin,
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
the platform.
EPL, English Premier League, have we got at last a title race? 3 teams, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, locked at the top. And a spectacular, absolutely brilliant overhead kick from young Garnacho for Man United, by Man United today. They're already calling that, well, early season contender for the goal of the campaign. Tom Rennie from talkSPORT. Even you can't prick my balloon today, pal. That goal from Garnacho, well worth getting up at 5:34. You got to say that's goal of the season. 4-2.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. It was astonishing, the quality of the finish. I think it's up there with Cristiano Ronaldo and Gareth Bale in terms of the quality of overhead kicks you've ever seen. You know, I saw a few people comparing it to Wayne Rooney for the obvious reason that it's a Man United player doing it, but Rooney's famous overhead kick in the Manchester derby was a shinner off the pad at the top corner, whereas this one today it's just off the most perfect part of the boot from an extraordinary angle in the second minute of the game. And there's a great quote from Garnacho post-match where he says, I didn't see it go in. I was too busy trying not to break my neck. But I heard it go in because the crowd cheered. And then he does the old Ronaldo thing as well. So, yeah, look, if you can't enjoy a goal like that, even if you're the biggest Man United hater in the world, then, I don't know, this sport might not be for you.
Can I say that we're back, baby?
No, you can't say that. I
Tom.
mean, you can say it, but I mean, this is your show. You can embarrass yourself on your own show as many times as you want. That's the rules. But, I mean, look, top of the form guide, right? I think it's 5 wins in 6. They've all been shonky, pretty poor performances against teams that will finish in the bottom half of the table. I'm not trying to discredit that so much because you've got to win those games. And today, against Everton, was probably the best performance of those wins against teams who are going to finish in the bottom half, Luton, Fulham, etc. So I wouldn't say Man United are back. I would suggest they're doing the thing that Erik ten Hag has done really well at Manchester United, which is beat the bottom half. He has done that really well since being Manchester United manager. It's trying to take on the teams at the other end of the table that's going to be the problem. And I don't think United are anywhere near City or Liverpool or Arsenal or, at the moment, Aston Villa.
Yes.
I don't think
Yes.
United are near that sort of quality. So enjoy the day. I hope you thank the Glazers, but you're not back yet.
Well, Aston Villa, a claret and blue side in the top 4. I mean, it's never going to be your mob, is it? But Tottenham, 3 losses in a row. Let's just tackle that now before we talk the top 3. That is the prick in the balloon for Big Ange, isn't it? 3 losses on the trot now. Is this the real Tottenham we're seeing?
Well, firstly, I think you'll find that West Ham has spent a lot of the last 3.5 years in the top 6. So, you know, not last year, sure, but the previous 2. So turn it in. But also, look, on that game, Tottenham at the moment are on a bit of a hiding to nothing because the start of the season is built around the quality of Romero and Van der Ven at centre-half. They are both injured. The creativity and brilliance of James Maddison in that number 10 role. He is injured. You know, you look at all the players that are missing for Tottenham, and they are crucial elements to what Spurs were doing in those first few weeks of the campaign. And Villa showed them up defensively. Postecoglou played a whole weird fullback at centre-half thing against Villa, which didn't work defensively. And in the end, Villa made those opportunities pay against an inexperienced backline. So, look, I think it's unfair to say that Spurs are going to continue to lose. I think it's 3 in a row now. But but also they were being overhyped considering the calibre of opposition they played in those first few weeks, which was, I think, the easiest start statistically across the first 10 games of the season of any team in the top 5 in Europe, top 5 leagues in Europe. So they weren't as good as the first 10 weeks. They're not as bad as things are now. I think they'll continue to bumble along until maybe January time when players come back in. I can see there being a pretty clear push for fourth, certainly top 6. They will finish in the top 7 and be back in European football. For Villa, the way they're playing right now is quite un-Emery in a lot of ways. He's quite a cautious coach in a lot of ways, which is why, the Arsenal thing didn't quite work out. But in his career, when he has taken over an impressive underdog with some talented players, he has always succeeded. Sevilla, Villarreal, and now Aston Villa are the most obvious cases in point. In Ollie Watkins and Moussa Diaby, he's got one of the best front twos in the league, in John McGinn. He's got a captain everyone in the league would want, in Emi Martinez. He has an incredible goalkeeper, despite being unbearably dislikable. You'd love him to be your goalkeeper. And he's harnessing something right now at Aston Villa that, they're not going to be in the title race, but right now there is a huge open battle between every team from 9th to 4th for that 4th Champions League spot and the 2 Europa League spots. I think the top 5 will probably be in the Champions League next year as well because of the way the coefficient plus the Swiss model works. So all of that means the top 8 are going to be in Europe. Only one of that group is going to miss out. I don't think it's going to be Aston Villa.
Tom Rennie with us from talkSPORT. It's like the NBA, isn't it? Every single team that plays now gets to go to the finals or gets a little prize at the end of the year. Let's look at the top of the table. Man City versus Liverpool. And City, pretty much dominated the game, but a really good point for the Scousers there. Arsenal go top, though, with a late goal away at Brentford. And I'm going to keep asking you this every week. Do we have a genuine title race on our hands now? I mean, that's all the rest of us want, isn't it? Rather than a Man City benefit. I mean, I'm even starting to open the door to think I don't actually want Liverpool to ever win anything, but I just like the idea that there is some competitiveness at the top of the table.
Well, look, if you need the Premier League to be good for your mortgage to be paid, that'll be me. I could do with a title race and I could do with a different champion. All I really want is a different champion every year. I think if you've got a different champion every year, you're in a healthy league. If you've got a team winning it 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, I don't think you do have a healthy league. And you've got to find a way to stop that. And the answer can't be, let's bung in some more sovereign wealth funds. We've got to find another way to make it competitive. And look, it is a title race currently. I still think City will go on to win it because they're extraordinary strength in depth, bought by, of course, that sovereign wealth fund. But the game on Saturday, which started the weekend, I thought Liverpool were brilliant. I love watching Liverpool this season because, every other team in the world who plays Man City, and I do mean the world, this includes Real Madrid and Barcelona and Bayern Munich. When you play Man City away, you go defensive, you low block, you try and nick an opportunity when you can. And Klopp just doesn't do it. He's the only man in the world that doesn't do it. It's why he has such a good record against Pep Guardiola across Dortmund and Liverpool, because he tries to win the game. And fair enough, they often get beat at the Etihad, but in this particular game, they got a draw. They created lots of chances. They were daring at times. Look, City could have won that by 4 or 5 with the chances they had, but they rolled the dice, Liverpool. They basically vacated midfield in the first half in order to find quick, incisive passes into the front 3 to then start a counter. It's great to watch. I would love to watch a City, Liverpool, Guardiola, Klopp game every single week. And it's a great goal by Alexander-Arnold. It's a great narrative. They're in the title race, and we need it, frankly. Like, City are making a bit of a mockery of what is supposed to be the most competitive league in the world. And it's great they're not top. Long may that continue. And I think, we have got a title race, though the smart money still goes on the European champions.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. We always start second hour of the show.
The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics. When the bell goes, we move on to the next one. We talked about the EPL just before 2 o'clock, so we'll move on from that. Why won't sports fans turn up to sport in Auckland, Lachlan? Give me an answer. Reece Walsh, is he worth it? He's going to be the highest paid Bronco, around about $1.3 million a year. Forget the money, it's just more about the idea. Could Andrew Webster coach the Kiwis as well as the Warriors? Huh? No? You're shaking your head, Lachlan? Australia versus India, the second of the T20s were overnight. Should we be watching this? Is it something worth watching, or is everyone just over cricket after the One Day World Cup? Garnacho's goal we've talked about, so we'll move on from that. There's a list of New Zealand cricket players, Black Caps, who have been dumped by their IPL franchise sides. I'll give you the list of 5, and you're going to tell me which ones of those are going to be picked up in the auction in a few weeks' time. The Davis Cup of tennis, Italy won it. It's all over the news. Do we care? And Catching Lightning, the TV show. I want to ask you about that as to whether or not you've watched it on TVNZ Plus. I'm watching it at the moment. Let's kick it, though, with why won't sports fans turn up to sport in Auckland? They do. They certainly did for the Warriors. Jumped the bandwagon all season there. Sellouts, and you've got to expect that's going to continue next season. Breakers got damn good crowds as well, certainly towards the end of last season. World Cup women's football, Eden Park packed out. But the Phoenix put on a hell of a show, Lachlan. 2 games for the price of 1 on a beautiful fine day. How come only 6,000 people turn up?
Because no one knows it's on. I didn't know it was on.
I'm going to ask David Dome about that, about what kind of promotion that they did. McDonald's were involved. I think they put a fair bit of money into it. I noticed that there was nothing over mainstream media websites / newspapers on the weekend on Saturday where you would expect. And come on, these are the same people that tell us the whole time. Don't tell us off for not supporting women's sport in particular. And that young Phoenix women's side have been going great guns. They'd won 3 in a row. They'd only lost, I think they'd lost 2. And they were playing the league leaders Perth. They came back from 1-0 down to win 2-1.
I think it's purely guesses. There's not really.
Well, I mean, all we can do is guess.
I don't think playing it out at Mount. You couldn't have it at Eden Park because you wouldn't fill it. But
no,
having it at Mount Smart's not a great.
Having said that, no, just to interrupt, mate. They've got over 20,000 before the Phoenix at Eden Park. And they've done that a couple of times.
Years ago.
Remember, that was the biggest ever crowd that they'd ever had.
I went to a game there in 2013. They had about 20,000 people, I think, which the Phoenix won. I mean, I don't think Mount Smart is an area of town that people want to go out to on the weekend. Compared to other parts of Auckland that are more, especially if the weather's good, more sort of hot spots to go to on your day off.
It's bloody easy to get to because only 6,000 people are there, as opposed to... Look, every time there is any kind of sport on at Mount Smart, and look, Warriors fans, you're going to laugh at this, but I mean, it is a groan. It's not an easy place to get in and out of.
No, and I don't want this to sound...
And it's not an attractive part of town either.
It's not the nicest part. It's a very industrial part of town. It's very far from the main sort of central suburbs. You certainly wouldn't want to be walking around those streets an hour or two after the game. You wouldn't. Me and my flatmates found this when we tried to find a pub afterwards and we had to walk 40 minutes to the nearest one. There's nothing nearby to entice people to hang around before or afterwards. There's no bars, there's no eateries. There isn't really like playgrounds or sort of safe areas to throw your kids. Public transport is iffy at best. Well, the public transport all over the city is terrible anyway. So, but I think part of it is Mount Smart. I think part of it is that no one knows it's on. And I actually just think Auckland is not great with sport unless the team is winning. The Warriors, I think.
Well, the Phoenix were doing all right. They were 2-2, and the women's side were doing.
It's not an Auckland team, though, is it? I don't think the Phoenix are a well-supported team at all outside Wellington. I don't even know how well-supported within Wellington they are. But I think
the crowd was probably what they normally get in Wellington. We're about 6,000. That's it. Yeah. I mean, what does that tell you also?
It's not a team or a league that I think just attracts a huge amount of, not just diehard football fans, but just casual football fans.
What does it mean then for a new A-League franchise coming to Auckland? Because there were representatives there from, let's call them the Black Knights, because blackknight.com.au is an erotic porn site, but let's call them the Black Knights, which is what the owner, Bill Foley, wants to call them. I mean, here's a bloke who has just got the deepest pockets, clearly, doesn't mind losing a few $1 million because that's what it's going to cost him. I mean, the setup's probably closer to 10, and then from that point on...
He wants to build a new stadium.
Well, I mean...
Good luck getting that past the council, but,
That's $500 million, probably even more than what he wants to spend, but... You know, if I was those, who from the new franchise staring at that going, well, hell, there's 2 games on here. This is where they are going to play their fixtures, Lachlan. They've already said they're committed to Mount Smart.
I think...
What are you going to do to get a crowd along?
I don't know. Look, okay. Last season, the Warriors got massive crowds, partly because it was their first full season back home, but mainly because they were winning. The Warriors have always done all right with crowds, but they got 20 to 25,000 a game because they were winning.
Yes.
The Blues have always gotten really good crowds when they've won. Now, that's changed a little bit over the last couple of years because everyone is just so disenfranchised from Super Rugby that there's just no connection to it anymore for the fans. I think I've used the word disenfranchised right there, I hope. the Breakers get good crowds, and I talked about when they win. Auckland is a city that we love our sport, but in terms of going along to the games and getting them in and around our teams, we'll do it if they win, particularly the casual fans. Like the amount of friends I've got who don't like league, don't watch it, but went to Warriors games last season, there was so many of them. So it'll be the same thing here, that if Bill Foley's injecting the money, and with a huge amount of money comes a lot of resources, a lot of good people in good positions who know how to run a sports team, and they eventually start winning after a year or two, then the crowd will come, absolutely. Now, the crowd will come if they play in an area of town that is close to bars and eateries and things to do and is easy to get to. That is not Mount Smart. So they've got to either build a new stadium or go to Eden Park, which will look terrible for the first few years, or play at some community grounds in the central suburbs.
To the bandwagon. Let's go.
Could Andrew Webster do both jobs? Could he coach the Kiwis, coach the Warriors?
He could, but he shouldn't. And I don't know
It's been done before. We've said it's been done by a couple
Yeah, but
of
it wasn't done for a very long time, was it? Daniel
If I
Anderson
was
was
the
the
Warriors
Warriors coach for 2.5 years.
Yeah, I'd say no. Yeah, no.
But I think
the Warriors have got to be about the Warriors, not the Kiwis.
Well, the Kiwis also want the job, and who gets it to be almost a representation of moving forward and making International Rugby League the pinnacle of rugby league, which is not going to happen. But they want to do that. If they want to do that, they need to get a coach who's in that job and focused on that job all year round, assuming that the fixtures go up. So it can't be Andrew Webster. And by the logic of Michael Maguire not being able to do both jobs, you can't really have a bloke who's coaching in the NRL and coaching a Kiwis team. Now, I know it's a little bit different when they talk about why Madge couldn't stay in the role, because he was coaching a New South Wales team, he was coaching an Australian-based side and a New Zealand side, and there's a conflict of interest with that. But I just don't think it would work. It'd be too big a job. And if you're the Warriors as well, and I'd like to think Andrew Webster would say this, you do not want to do a single thing to deter his success so far. No. So if you do something that could give him a little bit too much work, or you do something that could take his attention away from the Warriors for a split second, and it could derail things slightly, you do all you can to prevent that from happening.
The answer, I think, is no. Okay. What is more irrelevant to you at the moment? Italy winning the Davis Cup, or Davis Cup tennis in totality, or Australia-India playing this T20 series? Both going on in the weekend, both international sport, and it's not like it ain't at the top tier of international sport. You're talking Davis Cup tennis, meant to be the best players in the world playing. You're talking about two of the best cricket teams in the world playing. Oh, I couldn't give a stuff about either. Davis Cup tennis? Since when has anyone been interested in Davis Cup tennis? Back in the 70s, maybe? 80s? Might have squeezed a few years out of that decade.
It's a bit like golf for me. Outside of the majors or the Grand Slams, I'm not really that interested. I'm interested in the ASP Classic.
Yeah, actually, they're right. Look, and that's what I was just thinking when it comes to tennis. The ASP Classic I love because it's on at the perfect time of year over the new year in Auckland when nothing else is going on. But outside the tennis majors, so what?
Yeah.
So it's
not bothered.
You're playing 3 sets as men. Stop it, mate.
And in terms of the cricket, we've just had a World Cup. I don't need any more limited overs cricket. I'm stoked for Test cricket to start up soon.
Yeah. Well,
Looking
that's
forward to
tomorrow.
that.
Yeah, tomorrow we play Bangladesh. First day, first test. 4:30
Is it
start.
wrong for me to be more excited for the Australia-Pakistan series?
No,
So I'm
probably
more
not.
excited for that. And when we play Australia in, February? That'll be great.
A couple of topics to go. It might be 6 today. That's okay. It's our show. We can do what the hell we want. Out of this list of names, who's getting picked up by an IPL franchise side? Because they've all been dumped. Southey, Lockie Ferguson, Finn Allen, Michael Bracewell, Kyle Jamieson.
Probably. I don't know if Southey will. He's not been...
Remember a few years back, was it 2 or 3 years ago, Kyle Jamieson sold for $3-point-something million. Mike Heson was the coach.
It was like 2 years ago. Yeah.
And then he never played, or he played hardly at all.
He's always injured.
He's always injured. He's been injured ever since, hasn't he?
Pretty much. He had a back problem, yeah.
Oh, of course, I know, but it's still an injury. Like most fast bowlers get that. Yeah, out of those players, I don't know. I'd say out of the 5, maybe 1, maybe 2 are going to get picked up.
Yeah,
Southey and Ferguson both showed at the
Finn
One Day
Allen
World Cup. They're just,
Well, the thing is, I thought
not consistent anymore. Not at that level.
Ferguson's well past his best. Finn Allen probably will. Michael Bracewell probably will. And who was the last one?
Southey.
No.
Jamieson.
Jamieson will. Southey won't. I think Southey's well past his best in limited overs.
Final topic then. Catching Lightning. Now, I've had this recommended to me by a few mates who are saying, have you watched it? And I got necked on the weekend by a mate I was at the football with. Have you watched this yet? And I said, no, I haven't.
Can you get next by another male?
Well, you can. They start nagging you, mate. And then I don't watch. I'm not watching. I will watch. Okay, I started watching. Damn, it's a good series. Catching Lightning. True story of crime, justice, and MMA. Lightning Lee Murray. That was his name. He was on his way to becoming a UFC superstar.
Is it a doco or is it...
It's a kind of a 4-part... It's not an... You know how they do some of those docos where they're serialised and acted and they have really bad acting, right, filling in the gaps. So it's not like that. It's a series of interviews pieced together with news footage.
So it's a doco, essentially.
Well, kind of a doco storytell, really. I mean, that kind of all merges into one. But anyway, it's about the largest ever Securitas cash depot robbery in England. I remember this at the time, 2006 it was. They got away with £20 million, but it was one of those really hideous ones where they kidnapped the manager. I'm not going to spoil the story here because you can just look it up anyway. They kidnapped the manager and then they go back to his family home and then they hold his family hostage and like pour petrol around the house and do shit like that. And then, threaten that if he doesn't take them back to the depot and let them in and that, they're going to burn his family or whatever. So these aren't nice people at all, even though the guy Lee Murray is trying to pretend the whole way through it that, oh no, like I didn't really know like that was going on, did I? Like, I just sort of like ran the robbery, like, bollocks. Anyway, if you've watched it, let me know 5050 on the text, but I do recommend it. I've watched 2 episodes. It's only 4 episodes, so short attention span people, easy television. The Phoenix put on a hell of a show, and I'm talking both the men's and the women's teams. Both won at Go Media Mount Smart Stadium on the weekend. Brilliant day's entertainment. 2 for the price of 1, but only 6,000 people turning up. I mean, what? Oh, I thought football was on a roll in this country. I thought women's sport was on a roll in this country. I mean, that's what we've been told by the mass media, haven't we, eh? Well, where were you in support of it then? Not a single article on the front page of our major national daily newspaper on Saturday, the sports section about this. How come so few people went along there and enjoyed the spectacle? And what does this say for the future of another A-League franchise based here in Auckland? Heck, if 2 games could only attract 6,000 people, what hope of getting any kind of consistent crowd when the Black Knights start up? David Dome, head honcho at the Phoenix. He's on. David, what more do you have to do, mate? We had a beautiful day in Auckland. It was a fantastic promotion, 2 great games of football. Saturday afternoon, you just kind of think, I don't know what more you can do to get people out to the ground.
No, and Go Media did put a great promotion plan together along with McDonald's. There was a lot of stuff that we put out into the market. Spent a lot of time on getting the message out there. I mean, I think what we've realised over the years is that people turn out in New Zealand, the sporting public will turn out for an event. And that's why you saw a whole lot of people turning out for the FIFA Women's World Cup for meaningless games where they had no New Zealanders represented, but they would turn out because it was a world event that people thought, oh, I want to be part of that because it's, on the international stage. Yet when it comes to local domestic sport, they won't turn out unless there's something massive on the game. And that's what we try to do with the Macca's Festival of Football. 2 games, 1 day, first time it's ever happened, historic event. Try and turn it into something that people would want to be part of. And I think it was reasonably successful without being totally successful.
What kind of crowd was it?
I actually haven't got the number, to be fair, because it was a doubleheader. We normally get the actual number through just after half time, but because it was a doubleheader, they were still counting as the women's team came through. But it felt like around about 7 or 8. Like I say, I haven't got it. I know that we did about 5 or 6 in cash sales, plus there was comps in there as well, and there were people that didn't go through the gates who come through various other channels, and the corporate tickets and the boxes and all that sort of stuff. So that all adds up. But the actual hard number, we actually don't have one yet. But I will probably sometime early this week we'll get it. What were you hoping for? It must have been at least over 10 you would have been hoping for. Yes. Yeah, exactly right. We wanted over 10. I mean, we've done big crowds at Eden Park in the past. We've got over 20,000 at Eden Park. We've got 18,000 in Christchurch. So we know that it can happen. Mind you, those were pre-COVID days, or just the first game after COVID back at Eden Park. We got the big number. But yeah, it would have been. I thought over 10 plus would have felt right for an historic event like that. In terms of the advertising and promotion,
I don't know how to couch this really, but look, I'll just clumsily blast my way through. I mean, did the mainstream media do enough for you? I looked at the Herald, for example, on Saturday, and there's nothing, and I'm kind of thinking, a lot of talk about supporting women's sport in particular. And, whether or not, men's teams decide to piggyback on the way that the mainstream media is stuffing that down our throats at the moment, whatever, as long as you actually get the support, get the physical advertising and the physical promotion. It didn't feel like it happened.
No, and to really get the big crowds, you do need mainstream media on board, because that still does get a lot of cut through in New Zealand. We do struggle with that. The big codes, rugby, cricket, they get a lot of that coverage, and we have to come up with angles all the time as to why someone should be writing about us, should be putting us on the news and all that sort of stuff. And from time to time, that they do come through, and we do get good coverage. We have good staff journalists down in Wellington, but unfortunately in Wellington there's not a lot of the mainstream media based down there.
No, that's right.
Yeah. Like in the old days, everybody had coverage, had representatives on the ground in Wellington. Less so now, and that's why we thought that up here we'd get a bit more coverage, because we have a lot of the media's based up here, and that's why we tend to try and come up here a bit earlier, and we do the open training sessions, and we get the media along, and we make players available and all that sort of stuff. And there was a little bit of that in the lead up to it, but again, you come back to it. If you look at what happened around the FIFA World Cup, there was a story every
day. Oh no, more than one story. And that's and look, and I know that FIFA invested heavily in some of these organisations as well as to why they did it. But yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to add two and two together here. I'm not getting four, and I know that we should, David, because when people, as you say, pack out Eden Park for two teams that aren't New Zealand, and and where are those people who have sampled the product, who know that it's a good product? And this is a young Phoenix women's team, for example, that are winning, that are playing well, that came back, had a great week. I just can't figure out why there wasn't 10 to 15,000.
And that's the challenge, is how do you get those people to come back? And I know those people who went to those games, that database does exist, and I know New Zealand football are trying to get it off FIFA. It's not as easy as it sounds that you could go back to those people, but those are the people, the ones at the margins, because the call will come every time, and we're very thankful for the call that want to come every time. They'll turn up to every game, and they absolutely love it. But then the big mass markets, the ones at the margins, who you have to convince to come. And like you say, if the weather's not good, they don't turn up.
No.
If the teams aren't performing, they don't turn up. But we had all of that stuff come right for us.
Yeah,
the weather was fantastic.
Was.
Both teams are playing, men are top of the table, unbeaten. And you say the women are fantastic. And the quality of play that the women's team is playing, and also the characters that are now coming through. And that's what we spend a lot of time, is trying to build the characters. Whether it's the goalkeeper who broke a neck and came back, whether it's Macy Fraser, who's potentially the best New Zealand player we've ever produced. Annalie Longo, the captain. Mickey Foster, who's the outside back who can kick off both feet. You know what I mean? There are so many great characters in that team coming through now. That's what we're trying to do, is like, how do we connect those players, those profiles to the market, so people want to turn out and watch them.
David Domus, the head honcho of the Phoenix people. It was a great double header. I got lots of audio to play too from it. Went around with the microphone, mate, and just asking questions at the crowd. Are you going to go and support an Auckland team? And the overwhelming reaction was yes. So what does that mean if that crowd starts supporting Auckland? Is that the end of bringing the Knicks promotionally to Auckland?
We haven't completely discounted it. It certainly makes it a lot more difficult, because obviously that Auckland team will be playing here every other week. They will have their derbies against us, which will be massive. And whether we want to bring another Phoenix home game to Auckland, we've got to be careful, right? Because obviously our fans are Wellington based, and we obviously see our market now as outside of Auckland as proper. And I love the idea about the South Island, going back to taking games more down there. There's a great market down there, a lot of Phoenix fans in the South Island, and we have played games in Christchurch and Dunedin and all these sort of places before, Nelson. So we'll have another look at that, and maybe even the bottom of the North Island. But we haven't completely discounted. Eden Park's been very good to us in the past. We've got good crowds there, and whether we look at, do we do one game there or something just for our commercial partners who want to see us up there, or the Phoenix fans who are still will be loyal to us.
The Phoenix crowd vox pops, which I got on Saturday, and this was going along to the game, and I was just simply asking the question about, if you're supporting that side, would you support another team that came along? Would you watch a pro side here in Auckland? You'd definitely watch it.
Absolutely, yes, 100%.
Yeah?
Yeah?
Why not? The answer's definitely yes.
I back New Zealand football across the whole country, right? So I'll keep continuing to sponsor the Phoenix, and I'll sponsor an Auckland team.
Absolutely. Sport's fantastic. It brings Aucklanders together. I think we've shown how much we love sport in recent years with the World Cups.
I'm happy to support a local team. I think it's a great thing for Auckland to have a local team.
We got good talent here in New Zealand, and we just need a good support and funding for football here in New Zealand.
I want career pathways for boys and girls, and that's my big driver. How do we get more people playing overseas? How do we get the All Whites at the World Cup?
You'd support both?
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah.
When it comes to the local derby, though?
Oh, then it gets a little bit tough.
Well, I'm actually a South Islander, so it's even harder, but I would probably support Auckland. Yeah, I could support an Auckland team, yeah. I feel like football here in Auckland's it's not up to standard.
Oh, whoever's top in the league.
It sounds weird for a football supporter because you're normally territorial.
Yeah, but it is weird. But we have to embrace weird, don't we?
Yeah, but we heard from we're Kiwis.
Probably the Phoenix.
I think as a proud Aucklander, I'd probably switch allegiance to an Auckland-based team.
It's New Zealand. We're basically just a big city itself, so we can support each other easily.
To have an actual derby in New Zealand, I think will boost its accessibility to people here.
Marty, as you know, I support Man United, as hard as that might be, but I know.
The Phoenix have done all the hard works after they went from the Knights and the Kings down to Phoenix, and they've done all the hard work to get it all going again. And then I'll definitely support the Phoenix, but I'll support Black Knights because they're here.
You could support two teams?
Yeah, I think so.
Hesitation on that, wasn't there? Can it survive?
Depends on the public, I think, whether they support it.
I'm from South Africa, so yeah.
Okay, so, well, let's just have one quick word about the World Cup finals,
Yeah, here we go. Is what it is. Springboks won. That's it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, you're the world champions, pal.
Yeah, we are. I know that.
Of course you know that, pal.
The Platform.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.